Toastmasters and guests. What was the most embarrassing moment of your life? Do you look back and laugh over it? Many of you who have heard me talk about my troubles learning English will appreciate this one. Because the biggest problem isn't with the language, it's with what we hear is often not what is said. We all need to be very careful about our proclivity to speak before making sure what we heard is indeed what we heard. That's why proper pronunciation, diction, and listening are so important in Toastmasters. Let me share a couple of stories to illustrate this point. A few years ago, I was standing in line at a graphics and print shop when I heard the person in front of me ask the clerk, "Do you lemonade?" "Lemonade, sir?" "Yes, I was told you lemonade." "We are a print and graphics shop, sir." "I know that. I'm not an idiot. Look, if y'all can't lemonade these papers, I'll go somewhere else." "Oh, you mean laminate?" I couldn't help it. I broke out in a hearty laugh. And a few days later, I paid my dues for laughing at that guy. I was leading the implementation of a new electronic health record system, and 5 nurses were training all the other nurses on the system. I was attending the sessions to provide support. One nurse left to pursue another job, and a new nurse, whom I had never met before, replaced her. And on a bitterly cold day in Baltimore, I arrived at the training facility after an hour-long drive, and I was bursting. Luckily, the restroom was conveniently located opposite the training room. Phew. I rushed to the restroom and entered the training room and saw the new nurse. She walked towards me and introduced herself. "Hi, I'm Tijuana." And then she leaned closer and whispered in my ear, "You are a superstar." Wow! How do I take this? Me? A superstar? Lots of thoughts started to swirl in my mind. Beaming with pride, I thought. Perhaps the other nurses must have told her about my leadership in this project. Maybe they even told her about my standing in the cybersecurity industry and all my awards. Perhaps they even shared that I'm an author and how all of them are very proud to have a signed copy of my book. How do I respond to this? Probably best to be modest. I honestly felt the real superstars in this project were the nurses themselves. So I formed my response. "No, not me. I'm not the superstar. The team of nurses you joined are the real..." Tijuana didn't let me finish. She came towards me again, leaned over and whispered in my ear, "Your zipper's down." Moral of the story? Join Toastmasters. Practice listening. Clarify, verify what you heard, and then speak. Avoid the proclivity to speak too soon. Proper pronunciation, diction, and listening are very important in Toastmasters, and it will avoid a lot of trouble and embarrassment. Thank you very much.
Dr. Mansur's speech was excellent. Let me first tell you what he did really well in his icebreaker speech. He has a proclivity to making any speech very interesting and humorous as well. I also thought that he used great eloquent language, such as bitterly cold day in Baltimore, beaming with pride. I thought those were picture words that we can imagine when he gives his speech. I also like his background, the blue background. It's clean, and we can just focus on his gestures and what he's saying. He also has a very clear vocal speaking voice. You can clearly understand what he's saying, and you don't have to strain and try to figure out. He speaks English very well, much better than me. At least he understands the slangs that I didn't understand when I was 12 years old. The way he moved really close to the camera was dramatic. That really added a lot of quality in his speech. Now, I do have some suggestions. In Toastmasters, we are never 100% perfect, okay? Even those that have been in Toastmasters for decades, there's still some room for improvement. So here's my suggestions. You only gave us 2 stories. I like to use the power of 3. Maybe add a story in there. Maybe a really short one, because time is limited. If you add a 3rd story and use the final story about the nurse, the incident with the nurse as your climax, I think that would really wrap it very well with the power of 3. And tell us a little bit more about yourself, since this is an icebreaker. Why was English a problem? I didn't get, or I understand that because I know you, but to the new audience who don't know you quite well yet, they might not relate. Why was there a problem with English? Because you speak English very, very well. But you started just like me, from another country, and we learn English differently. But I thought you were exemplary. I like your proclivity to making speeches very, very interesting.